والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أما بعد، قال الإمام أبو عبد الله البخاري رحمه الله: باب الرجاء مع الخوف. وقال سفيان: ما في القرآن آية أشد علي من لست مع شيء حتى تقيموا التوراة والإنجيل وما أنزل إليكم من ربكم. حدثنا قتيبة بن سعيد قال حدثنا يعقوب بن عبد الرحمن عن عمرو بن أبي عمرو عن سعيد بن أبي سعيد المقبري عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: إن الله خلق الرحمة يوم خلقها 100 رحمة، فأمسك عنده 99 رحمة، وأرسل في خلقه كلهم رحمة واحدة، فلو يعلم الكافر بكل الذي عند الله من الرحمة لم ييأس من الجنة، ولو يعلم المسلم بكل الذي عند الله من العذاب لم يأمن من النار. In Sahih Bukhari, there are many chapters in Sahih Bukhari. There are chapters which are known, and there are chapters which are in circulation among the Muslims and among non-Muslims. And then there are other chapters in Sahih Bukhari which may be not so known, and they may not be in such wide circulation among Muslim and non-Muslim. From those very important chapters in Sahih Bukhari, especially on a day-to-day basis, for every single Muslim, scholar, student, teacher, man, woman, that everybody always needs to read and focus on, is one of the last chapters of the book, and that which is called Kitab al-Raqa'iq, or Kitab al-Riqaq. It is the chapter of heart-softening hadiths. The chapter on hadiths which are supposed to make your heart soft, and supposed to melt your heart, to prevent you from having a hard heart, and from having a rusty heart, and prevent you from being preoccupied by your worldly responsibilities, which are more than enough to preoccupy you from the hereafter, and thinking about death, and being connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closely, let alone haram things. Forget acts which are impermissible, just your basic day-to-day hustle and bustle, working, paying bills, taking your children to school, dropping them off from school, you, your wife, just your daily things that you have to do. It can preoccupy you, and oftentimes you turn around and you look, and you may be getting away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the dhikr, you may not be making as much as you're supposed to be making, and prayer and reading the Quran and other righteous acts, which is a manifestation of the heart being hard. Or tawbah. Many of us, we may be so busy, we may be so tied up, we don't think about tawbah. We don't think about it. It doesn't come to our minds. And sometimes we may want to make tawbah, but we just don't have the time to. Or we feel that we can delay it and push it back. Or whatever our selves tell our minds. Or whatever our minds tell ourselves. So oftentimes, when you're talking about living by the sunnah, benefiting from the sunnah, adhering to the sunnah, is in a complete package. It's a complete package. And Sahih Bukhari, which isn't the sunnah, it is a source of the sunnah. Sahih Bukhari is a resource to learn about the sunnah. And of course, the sunnah is in Sahih Bukhari, but that's a book of a person. That's not everything of the Prophet ﷺ, all right? And how it's organized and put together, that's the work of Imam al-Bukhari, which is magnificent. Not a question about that. But the point is, is that if you're going to read Sahih Bukhari to learn about the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you should read all of Sahih Bukhari. And you should look into all of those different chapters. And not just Kitab al-Iman, Bad al-Wahi, Kitab al-In, Kitab al-Wudu. Read all of it. And from time to time, you should make for yourself a favorite chapter in the book. A chapter that you feel is the best for you, and the most interesting and the most intriguing chapter for you. Or you may need to investigate and evaluate your life. What do I need most from Sahih Bukhari? What am I lacking in the most as a Muslim? From time to time, you should sit down with your wife, sit down with your husband, your children, and read Sahih Bukhari together. Give your wife a lecture in the household. Give your children a class in the household. And if you can't do that, then at least just read the hadiths together. Read them together as a family. Just like you talk about things as a family, and you watch TV as a family, and you go on a vacation as a family, and you argue and fight as a family, why don't you read Sahih Bukhari as a family? Or a smaller book. Mukhtasar Sahih Bukhari, summarize Sahih Bukhari, Riyadh al-Salihin. Every family should do this periodically from time to time. And if you can do it on a daily basis, then of course you're a good husband, and you're a good wife, or you're a good son. If you can go to your father and share a hadith with him before he goes out in the morning, as they're dropping you off to school or they're taking you into the madrasa, say, Abby, look what I read. Ummi, look what I read. Can you help me out? What does this mean? How does the Prophet do this and tell us this? This is something which keeps people together. All right? So from those chapters is the chapter of melting the heart. It's keeping the heart soft after it has already been melted. And if the heart is not soft, if it's hard, then melting it and softening it. And from that, a subchapter, Imam al-Bukhari, he says, Babu al-Raja'i mal-Khawf, is to hope for Allah. To hope for Allah's mercy and His forgiveness. No doubt about that. And to know that Allah is most forgiving, all forgiving. To know that Allah is kind. And Allah is tolerant. He is Al-Latif, Al-Halim, Al-Ghafur, Arhamur Rahimin, Khairul Rahimin. And the list goes on of Allah's attributes that prove that you should hope for Him. And when things don't go right for you in this worldly life, or even if they do, you always hope for Allah, that this is only temporary. I didn't get this didn't happen, this didn't work out. It's okay, because I hope for something greater than that and bigger than that. Or even with the material possessions that you do have. And people that say, wow, oh man, mashallah. Many people, they do this. They say, wow, and their eyes bulge. Then they say, Allahumma barak. That's not the correct etiquette. That's not the proper adab. Mention Allah's name first, and don't allow your eyes to swell up. Many people, they do this, and you may put the eye on someone by accident. MashaAllah, Allahumma barak. That's very nice. Don't say that's nice, that's this and that's that. Then say MashaAllah. It's possible to put the eye on a person already. So you see something that pleases you of the dunya, or even yourself, be careful. Put the eye on yourself. Be careful of not having a proper adab with Allah Azza wa Jalla when you look in the mirror. Be mindful. So whenever you have of worldly possessions, somebody they come along and they say, oh man, that's crazy, that's major, that's this and that's that. You tell them what we hope for from Allah is bigger and better than this. This is nothing. No matter how expensive it is, no matter how nice it is, there's something which is bigger in store for the believers. We hope for Allah Azza wa Jalla and for His mercy. And at the same time that you hope for Allah and you hope for His mercy, you have to have something else which keeps you balanced, and that is to fear Allah and to be afraid and to be scared. Maybe my deeds are not being accepted. Maybe my sins aren't forgiven. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't blessing me. Maybe He's yastadrijuna. Maybe we're being set up for an embarrassing failure at the end. Allah gives us respite. He blesses us. He grants us peace and safety and money and wealth, good times. But it doesn't mean that it is a blessing. It doesn't mean that it is an absolute blessing. And oftentimes, many of us, we have become fooled by this. And we think just because we have money, and just because we have sons and daughters and children, and we have buildings, and we have this, that Allah is pleased with us. It does not mean that. It doesn't mean that. If that's your scale, that Allah is pleased with you, then that would mean He's pleased with those who don't believe in Him. Because they have more things than we do. Bigger and better things than we do. The dunya, no question, is intimidating. There's no doubt about the dunya being intimidating. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. When you look at the technology, you look at the breakthrough, you look at the wealth, you look at the things that they have. It's breathtaking. There's no doubt about that. If you travel, if you go from continent to continent, you see how Allah Azza wa Jalla has allowed them to have certain things in this life. زُيِّنَ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Allah says, those who disbelieve, is made fine and fair to them. So you have to have khawf, that it's not just so simple and it's not so sweet, that I can disobey Allah, go against what Allah tells me to do, and He's just going to forgive me. And that's it. Allah is all forgiving. So you don't have to make this salah. You don't have to do this. You don't have to stay away from that. Because Allah is all forgiving. What's the big deal? It's the attitude of many of us. And that is why when you have both, you have a balance. One prevents you from falling into an extreme of the other. One wing of the bird balances the other wing, and then the bird flies. You have to have a balance. Not too much fear and not too much hope. So Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah and the other Muslims, the other ulama of hadith, they knew this. And they knew its importance for the servant to be balanced. Never to the extreme in any of the two aspects. So he says, al-khawfu and raja and khawf. وقال سفيان, and then Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, which is one of the distinguishing features of his book, something that makes his book so special and above and beyond just the sheer book of hadith, is that he quotes yuridu al-mawqufat. He quotes what the Sahaba said, and what the Tabi'un, the Salaf al-Salih, what they said, and how they interpreted the Quran, and what they said about the certain issues, and what they did, and how they behaved. And that, no doubt, is a spice in Imam al-Bukhari's book. Spice. It's not just the basic, simple thing, but he adds a spice to it. He gives you Quran, which is not supposed to be in his book. It's a book of hadith. But he gives you Quran. He gives you tafsir. He gives you what Ibn Mas'ud said and what Zuhri said. And that's not supposed to be in a book of hadith. And that's why Imam Muslim's book, rahimahullah, is a pure book of hadith. It's pure. And Imam al-Bukhari's book, which is a book of hadith, has more exotic things in it. He quotes much more than just the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So from that is when he said, وَقَالَ سُفْيَانُ, that Sufyan, he said, and Sufyan obviously was from the early Muslims, مَا فِي الْقُرْآنِ آيَةٌ أَشَدُّ عَلَيَّ مِنْ. He says, there isn't a verse in the Quran which is harder on me. There isn't a verse in the Quran which gives me more terror and fear, which bothers me the most, more than what Allah Azza wa Jalla says, O people of the scripture, the Jews and the Christians, لَسْتُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ. Allah says, you're not upon anything. You're not doing anything. You're not impressing me. You're not doing anything which is right. حَتَّى تُقِيمُوا, until you establish what is in these books. Until you establish what's in the Torah and the Injil. وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُم مِّن رَبِّكُم, and that which is sent down to you from Allah. Listen to this ayah now. Allah says, oh, Jews and Christians, you're not doing anything special. Don't think that you have a special place with me. Don't think that you have paradise. Don't think that you have a guarantee with me, and you're not implementing the Injil. You're not implementing the Torah. You're not following Musa and Isa. You're a Christian or you're a Jew just by words, by lip service. Think how this verse may apply to us. We as Muslims, we as the Ummah of Muhammad, where is the Quran? Where is the Sunnah? Where are the teachings of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in our lives? And then we think that it's something special and something good. Just yesterday we went to a museum. We went to a museum right here in Toronto. I'm not going to mention the name of the museum that we went to. You go to the museum and it's a wonderful, enchanting ambiance. No question about that. Exquisite, top-notch. And you look at the different exhibitions, and you look at the different pottery, and the different marble, and the different scrolls of calligraphy, and the maps, and coins, and medallions, and bows and arrows, and ivory tusks, etc. MashaAllah. Islamic civilization, Islamic artwork, Islamic history, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. This fancy jade-handled dagger, and this engraving, and this inscription, and this teacup, and this water basin, and this candlestick are made of brass from this century and of that century. These are beautiful things, and they mean a lot to Muslims and to non-Muslims. They represent the Muslims being technologically advanced, the Muslims having culture, having civilization, that the Muslims are not savage animals that come from regressive countries that are totally stuck in the past. That's not true. It was a time in which the Muslims were ahead. The Muslims were leading and dominating and setting the policy of the standard of life. And there were many non-Muslims that were stuck in the past, and they were considered to be uncivilized, etc. However, whether it's this museum or other museums, a documentary that you watch, a movie that you see, a book that you read, many people, they think that that's it. Alhamdulillah, we did something, we're doing something, because we have this ceramic bowl and we have this marble inscription on a tombstone. We think that that's Islam, and that's the proof for the Muslims and the proof for Islam. And oftentimes, not only is that insufficient, but these different artifacts and these different historical things that we have in museums, they prove the opposite. They show the opposite, that the Muslims were disobeying Allah for many years, and they were astray and against the Sunnah for many years. What did the Prophet ﷺ say about graves? Writing on graves, raising graves, erecting tombstones on graves. What did the Messenger of Allah ﷺ say about drawing and illustrating and sculpting? What did the Prophet ﷺ say about wearing gold and silk? What did the Messenger of Allah ﷺ say about imitating women and women imitating men? What did the Prophet ﷺ say about loving and imitating disbelievers? What did the Prophet ﷺ say about shirk and kufr? And we saw a gold coin, and on the coin, and Allah is my witness, it said, Ya Muhammad, Ya Ali, on the coin. And this is Islamic civilization. MashaAllah, look at this breakthrough. Look at the Muslims' craftsmanship of the Muslims. Lastu ala shay. Allah says, you're not upon anything until you implement the gospel and the Torah. Muslims, they think that they're doing something or they've done something and they're disobeying Allah and His Messenger. We're living in a dream world. It's not something to be proud of and to rejoice in. We should be ashamed. 600 years ago, this is what the Muslims were doing. We should be ashamed. 800 years ago, there's a Muslim emperor or a sultan or a king that's wearing a silk garb from top to toe, the finest of silk, and it's preserved in a museum. It's not praiseworthy. For you to have a bow or sword, which is extremely extravagant and decorative, how many battles are you going to fight with that? What are you actually doing with that? That's just for ceremony. And how much money is spent just for show? Was that the sword of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu? Or Ali radiallahu ta'ala? What do you think their swords look like? Do you think they were crusted with jewels and diamonds and studded and gilded with silver and gold and rubies? It's not a warrior's sword. So the point is that that is the criterion for what are we upon, and if Allah is pleased with us or not, until we establish the Torah and the Injil, until we establish the Quran and the Sunnah. That is the determining factor. Nothing else. Not museums, not this, not that, lineage, and so on and so forth. So we have to be mindful of this. So this is why he said this is the hardest verse in the Quran upon me. Then Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, with his beautiful style, after he quotes the Quran or quotes the interpretation, he goes right into the hadith, directly into the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the hadith, if you wish to reference it, is number 6,469. He reports with his isnad, his chain of narration, that goes back to Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, that the Messenger of Allah alayhi wasallam, he said, I heard him saying, Inna Allah khalaqa rahmata yawma khalaqaha miyata rahmah. As that Allah Azza wa Jalla created mercy. He created mercy. And when He made this mercy, He made it into 100 parts. 100 parts, 100 sections of rahmah. And as we know, the rahmah of Allah is of two types. There's a rahmah makhluqa, wa hunaka rahmatun ghayru makhluqa. The mercy of Allah that's created, and the mercy of Allah which is not created. So when we talk about Allah's attributes, Allah's rahmah, this is the rahmah of Allah. It could mean this is the attribute of Allah, and obviously that's not created. Or the rahmah of Allah could be a child. The rahmah of Allah could be a place like heaven. The rahmah of Allah could be the masjid, which is obviously created. So he says in this hadith that Allah created mercy and He made it into 100 parts. فَأَمْسَكَ عِنْدَهُ تِسْعًا وَتِسْعِينَ رَحْمَةً. And Allah, He kept 99 parts exclusively with Him. He kept 99 parts with Him. وَأَرْسَلَ فِي خَلْقِهِ كُلِّهِمْ رَحْمَةً وَاحِدَةً. And Allah sent among all of His created beings only one section of rahmah. La ilaha illallah. It doesn't say the human beings. It doesn't say athaqalain, mankind and jinn. Khalqihi, kullihim. All of the creation, animals, insects, birds, everything that's made and created, Allah, He gave it mercy. And that's only one part of His mercy. That's only one section from Allah's mercy. That's tremendous if you think about it. How much mercy is on the earth? One of the greatest refutations of atheists and those who say that God doesn't exist, let alone Allah, let alone Islam, is that there are people that are starving, and there are people who are suffering, and there are people who have no food to eat. 10% of the world's population has 90% of the world's wealth. How just is that? Where was God when this young child was raped and molested? Where was God when these bombs were sent down upon these poor people in this impoverished country? This is what they say. It's not right. It's no such thing. And many people, unfortunately, Muslim or not, they may fall victim to these doubts. Oh man, that does make sense. That's messed up. How can it be? How can Allah make these people and allow them to starve to death? That's messed up. And then leave Islam, and they have no religion. But we know the answer to the question is quite simple. Or there are many answers to this problem and to this doubt. And that is, what are you basing this doubt off of? What are you basing it upon? How do you know what things should be like? How do you know the food that people should have? How do you know what is right and what isn't right? How do you know when God is supposed to or isn't supposed to be there? Unless you've seen it before, and unless you've witnessed it before, and unless you yourself have food, and you yourself have protection, and you yourself are not being bombed, unless you yourself live upon a standard. And then you go to a third world country and say these people don't have drinking water, these people don't have basic sanitation, these people don't have basic food. In the Philippines, these people, or in Malaysia, or in this country or that country, they go to the garbage, to landfills, and they recycle meat. They recycle meat. Stop to think about this now. They go to garbage. They don't just take food. No, they pick out meat. Whatever meat it is, processed, raw, whatever, they take it and they collect it in the bin. And they take it home and they wash it and they clean it the best way that they can. And they add spices and colors and they put it in the stew. And that's his dinner. That's the dinner for him and for his wife and his children. That's their dinner. Akramakumullah. That's their dinner tonight. From recycled meat, from leftovers in a garbage can. And not just from food, whatever may be in that can. That's his food. How do you know that he's not supposed to be eating that? And that's messed up. Unless you eat in a certain way. Or unless people in that country eat in a certain way. Unless you've seen mercy, then you know where there isn't mercy. Everyone understand the point? You're basing it off of something. So for you to see mercy, if you to see people eating well, and people being taken care of, and people having basic sanitation, that proves that there is what? On earth, there's mercy. You don't know that which is evil until you can compare it to that which is what? Good. You can't say, wow, it's really dark outside, unless you've experienced the daylight, unless you've seen the daylight. So your own doubt is a proof against you, is that there is an existence of a creator. And that creator is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because everyone isn't starving, everyone isn't dying. Are people, are certain people, are many people? Without a doubt. But every time you see something negative in Allah's universe, I guarantee you'll find 10 things which are positive. So that's not rationale, that's not intellectual proof that there is no God. That's falsehood. And most importantly, why are you eating at night? Why are you eating? Even the people that go to these different villages and they give them medicine and they help them out and they do this charitable work. What are they eating? What boots are on their feet? Are you walking around barefoot? Do you have malaria? Are you getting sick like them? Of course you're not. You preserve your health because you have to look after them. And who is preserving health for you? Who blessed you with that? Except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the point is that Allah Azza wa Jal, He made rahmah into 100 parts. And all of His created beings have received some mercy from Him on one level or another. And that's only one section from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, فَلَوْ يَعْلَمُ الْكَافِرُ بِكُلِّ الَّذِي عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ لَمْ يَيْأَسْ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ. So if the non-Muslim, the non-believer, if he knew the mercy that Allah has, he would never ever give up hope. He would never give up hope. He would never lose hope from paradise. And if the believer knew, وَلَوْ يَعْلَمُ الْمُسْلِمُ بِكُلِّ الَّذِي عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ لَمْ يَأْمَنْ مِنَ النَّارِ. And if the Muslim knew the punishment that Allah has with him, if he knew about the hellfire, he would never ever feel safe against it. Never. He would never say, Al-imanu fil qalb, ad-din al-mu'amala, Allah ghafur rahim, Allah yasamih. He wouldn't say these things. Allah is all forgiving, doesn't matter. Pass me the drug, pass me the alcohol, pass me the riba. He wouldn't say these things. He wouldn't feel safe. So you can see here from this hadith exactly what Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah was saying in the chapter heading. Hope for Allah because He made so much mercy, and fear from Allah because He is Shadidul Iqab. Allah's punishment is severe, is terrible. It's not a small, easy thing. قوله باب الرجاء مع الخوف أي استحباب ذلك، فلا يقطع النظر في الرجاء عن الخوف ولا في الخوف عن الرجاء، لئلا يفضي في الأول إلى المكر وفي الثاني من الخروج، وكل منهما مذموم. والمقصود من الرجاء أن من وقع منه تقصير فليحسن ظنه بالله ويرجو أن يمحو عنه ذنبه، وكذا من وقع منه طاعة يرجو قبولها. وأما من انهمك عن المعصية راجيا عدم المؤاخذة بغير ندم ولا إقلاع فهذا في غرور. وما أحسن قول أبي عثمان الجزري: من علامة السعادة أن تطيع وتخاف أن لا تقبل، ومن علامة الشقاء أن تعصي وترجو أن تنجو. وقد أخرج ابن ماجه من طريق عبد الرحمن بن سعيد بن وهب عن أبيه عن عائشة أنها قالت: قلت يا رسول الله الذي يؤتون إلى آخر كلامه رحمه الله. He says here, Ibn Hajar in the commentary of Sahih Bukhari, he says the chapter heading means is recommended. The recommended act. To fear Allah and to have hope for Allah at the same time, to be balanced. To be balanced. And some people, they may say it's not recommended, but it's obligatory. It's mandatory. Because both of them are mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. And there's commands to fear Allah and commands to hope for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's trying to say here is that a person's hope should never be so extreme that it pushes him away from fearing. And a person's fear should never be so extreme that it pushes him away from hoping from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you have too much hope of Allah, you feel that you're safe. أَفَأَمِنُوا مَكْرَ اللَّهِ. Allah says, do they feel safe against the plan of Allah? Do you feel that you've made it and then it can't happen to you and it won't happen to you? And that's a major problem. Or are you so afraid, so terrified, so scared, and so sinful that you've despaired, you've lost all hope of Allah forgiving you? And that's also a major problem. And this is something which leads to depression, and this is something which may lead to suicidal thoughts. As the brother said last night, right here in this masjid, right here, last night, he said, I'm suicidal. Suicidal. Because of a mistake that I made, or an error that I fell into, right here in this masjid. Am I making this up, Nafis? He said he wanted to make suicide right here in this masjid, after the classes, when we were about to leave. How many Muslims are suicidal? How many Muslims have all types of antidepressants that they have to take? A cocktail of pills. They feel that there's no hope for them, that their lives are ruined. And how many Muslims, they go around disobeying Allah and doing whatever they want to do, and they have the nerve to think Allah is going to forgive me. Don't worry, Allah will forgive me. Adi, yani, it's no problem. Allah is forgiving. Allah is merciful. He is, without question. But He's merciful for people who respect Him, for people who obey Him, for people who have regard for His laws. And then they fall short, and they make a mistake. Don't worry, don't kill yourself. Don't get stuck on the past, because Allah is all forgiving. That's in the past. You made tawbah, you made repentance. Khalas, move forward with your life. Don't get stuck. But don't think that you have a guaranteed pass to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't think that. So this is the explanation of that ayah and of that chapter heading. And this obviously shows you the melting of the heart. if you stop and think about it. Wow, subhanAllah, 100 mercies of Allah, and only one of them is right here on earth, let alone the other parts of Allah's creation, which we don't know about, which we haven't explored yet. So there are 99 pieces of rahmah in His store. That's the part of the hadith that most people hear about and mention, right? But not too often, very seldom will you hear the end part of the hadith. If the kafir knew, if the Muslim knew. So if you truly knew Allah's mercy, you would never think about making suicide. You wouldn't think about killing yourself. No matter what your sin is, no matter what your crime is, no matter what your addiction is, Allah's mercy is greater. And if you truly knew about Allah's wrath and the seriousness of the punishment in the grave and the hellfire, you wouldn't walk around thinking that you have a guarantee from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who said that you're even going to die upon Islam? Who guaranteed you that? Who told you that the iman is going to remain on you until death? Who said that? You keep disobeying Allah, it may be taken away from you. As Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala said about the hadith of the Prophet, La yazni zani hina yazni wa huwa mu'min, is that when you fornicate, you're not a believer. You're not a kafir, you're still a believer, but you aren't a believer. He said, Yunza'u minhu nur al-iman. He says that the light of faith is removed, it's taken from you. And then when a slave stops making zina, Allah may give it back to him. And there are other versions that say, if Allah wills, He will give it back. And if Allah wills, He may not give it back. So what guarantee do you have? Let's look at sports now. People that have very lazy work habits. They don't like practicing. And if they practice lazily. They don't push themselves hard for the actual game. And then when the coach or the teammates, they say, why aren't you practicing so hard? You're walking, you're supposed to run to the other side of the field. Hustle, work. They say, it's just practice, man, relax. Don't kill yourself, it's just practice. Correct or incorrect? It's just practice. The coach or the other players, they say, we're not starting him this game. He's not going to start. But he's good, he has talent, he can't start. Because I can't trust him. If he has the ability to think lazily in practice, he has the ability to think lazily when? In the game. And if it's an issue of the fourth quarter, the third period, the 11th and 12th round, it's all about conditioning. It's all about conditioning and willpower. So if you're not willing to push yourself, there's no guarantee that you have enough gas, enough air, enough energy to fight the rest of the fight. There's no guarantee that you'll win. And the same applies to sinning. You keep sinning, what is the guarantee that you're going to die upon Islam? What's the guarantee that you're going to have the ability to make the shahada at the deathbed? What's the guarantee that you're going to be able to answer the questions successfully? Everybody knows the three questions and the three answers. It's easy. But it's not based off of just knowing it. It's not arithmetic. The munafiqs, they knew the answer to the question. But the Prophet says that they will stutter. They will stammer. They won't be able to say it. Allah gives the believers a firm statement in this life and in the hereafter. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. So therefore, he says that one of the ulama of the past, they said, or Ibn Hajar before that, he says here, so therefore, too much hope leads to being safe from Allah's plan, and too much fear, it leads to you losing hope in Allah's mercy. And what's meant here by hoping for Allah is after you've made the mistake. You've done the good deed, you hope that Allah accepts it. And what's meant here of fearing Allah is to prevent you from falling into sin. Alright? As far as those who sin and disobey Allah all the time, over and over and over again, he says then they're lost, they're maghrur, they're deceived, they're duped, they've been tricked. Abu Uthman al-Jizi, he said, from the signs of happiness that Allah has blessed you, if you want to know if Allah has blessed you and that you're a happy person, a lucky person, he says here, it's for you to obey Allah and to be afraid that Allah will not accept it. That's a sign that Allah has blessed you. Is that you're on the correct path, and yet still you're fearful for Allah not to accept it from you. And from the signs that you aren't blessed, you may be cursed, waliyadhu billah, you may be led astray, you've done something wrong, that you're shaqi, waliyadhu billah, you're wretched, is for you to disobey Allah and for you to hope that you'll be saved and delivered. you don't give out anything, you don't put forward anything, you don't practice, you don't work hard, you don't study, and you actually believe in your heart and feel we're going to win the game. I'm going to perform, I want to do well, and I haven't studied, I haven't practiced, I haven't devised any strategies against the facing team. No, that doesn't make any sense. And it allows no doubt from the signs that you're a great player and a first-class athlete is that you work hard, you push yourself, you study the film, and you're afraid of losing. That's a sign that you're there mentally. And not the what? Not the opposite. So bid'Allah ta'ala, let this be food for thought for us all, starting with myself. And there's much more that we could mention regarding this very important topic. And this is something which we all need as Muslims, man, woman, and child, scholar, student of knowledge, imam, resident scholar, taxi driver, doctor, physician, engineer, whatever our profession and our way of life is, we all need to be balanced. Be mindful that we have to fear Allah and have to hope for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With Him is all success. We ask Him to bless us all and to guide us all and to forgive us all and to keep us steadfast and keep our children steadfast.